All right, folks, welcome back to Mike and Maurice's Mind Escape episode number 11 with our buddy Chris Emmerson. Today we're going to be talking about music, vibrations, and jam bands.
Hey, hey.
And gongs.
So let's start this off. Let's talk about what got you guys into music. Like everybody listens to music, but like what captured you, Chris, for like the first time? Like what musically, was it a band? Was it a type of music? Like what got you into it?
Well, the day I was born, my dad left for a gig in New York. So I was born into music, like pretty literally. So yeah, having a dad that's a musician, it's a huge thing. So like I remember growing up, at one point we lived in a loft in Eastern Market, and like they would rehearse there. So like the drums would be there and all the gear and all this stuff. It was like magic. And then he would take me to the recording studio.
Is that the 150 or 1583 Eastern Market?
It was at Division Street or something.
Yeah, yep, Division, yep.
Yeah, in the video.
Some of that, yeah, the video, bro.
Yeah,
you guys live there?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, that was my second home ever.
Damn.
Yeah. And so they would have like the band in there, and it was like a bit, it'd be interesting to see the loft now, because when you're little, everything seems so massive. And so this was just a big loft space. And yeah, he would have the bands in there. And I mean, it's like magic when you're a kid,
Well,
so that was
so did you then, is that what made you want to start playing music? Or like, is there something like, because there's like I think that for everybody there's music and then there's music. If you're a musician, especially, where there's something that you get into so heavy that it impacts the rest of your life, not just, what you listen to per se. Is there something that kind of did that for you, or?
It's been so long. Like, no, like this is, I mean, it sounds like, I don't know, like cliche or whatever, but it's been so long. Like, I don't remember time before thinking in terms of being a musician.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't even it's like, it barely exists to me anymore. Like if anything, like any kind of memory of that. I mean, even before playing music or playing around with music, I just like being at that loft in particular, like, he would have like Pink Floyd, The Wall on, or like Bob Marley would be on a lot, like, or Beatles, all the classic stuff, Zeppelin. But, like last episode I was on with you guys, we were talking about the Eastern and the Vedic stuff, but in Vedic philosophy, everybody has what's called their vasanas, as their inherent nature. And I think that mine is definitely a music vasana. Like it's just was built into. It's not even so much like, oh, I decided to become a musician or this or that. It's just like, yeah, it's just,
it's just the way of life.
It's just the way I am. You know what I mean? It's not even a choice. Like if I would have to, like at one point a few years ago, I really thought, I was like, I don't ever want to play music again. Like I was really disheartened. And like I tried.
What made you do it? Like what made you think that? Like, because you obviously love it. Like what was the driving force behind feeling that way?
Ego.
Okay.
Yeah, 100% ego. Like trying to, like, obviously Hogan and I had written a lot of music and tried to do original music, and I really loved the music that we wrote and the band that we played in, but then I tried to do my own stuff. And it's obviously I love original music and being creative and stuff, but if your intention isn't right, or your ego, like it's kind of like,
well, it's a lot to take on when it's all your own too, when it's your name on the CD and everything.
Right.
When you're in a band, it's like if we fail, we fail together. But when you're
it's not only that, when you're in a band, you feel the other people's energy. Like there's not just you, there's a bunch of you. So it's a little bit easier to navigate through things, because even if you're having a hard time, there's, like he's saying, there's other people there to support you,
Yeah. Well, and really, like, even though it was, I guess, technically some kind of a solo thing or whatever, we did have I did really enjoy the band, the playing with the band. That was the one thing I really liked. But then I got into this thing where it's like, obviously I liked the music I was writing. And if it doesn't connect with people, then you're like, well, what's wrong with you? You don't like this? But it's like, yeah, well, who cares? It's like, no, nobody really liked it. I mean, I'm sure maybe a couple people did, but it gets into a thing like you get into this ego mentality of like somebody owes you something. It's like nobody owes you. Like you have to earn people's like respect and all that kind of stuff.
Well, that's the fucked up thing about it. It's like all you can really do is put out what you hear and feel, and if people like it, they like it. You know what I'm saying? You're either gonna appeal or you're not. I mean, the music we wrote was great, but it's a weird thing. And you see a lot of people that like try and like change their sound and everything to like be someone they're not.
Right. Yeah, I think that I've tried to be really careful not to do that particular thing, like to try to do any one particular thing because I think it'll work. I don't think I would be able to do that anyway, but like some of it's, like, okay, I wasn't really self-aware of my limitations or self-aware of the limitations of others or like, really assessing things well. And then that kind of thing leads to a disheartened state of like, screw everybody, or I don't want to do this anymore. Like,
I also think it's a lot of the time too. If you came out, depending on when you play your music, it has a lot to do with
it's time and play. It's
you're
time and circumstance.
It's time, it's circumstance, it's skill.
If you were playing,
luck,
if you were playing the way you were playing right now, like in the 60s, you'd be blowing people away. But obviously it took all the knowledge from those eras to get you to where you are now. It's how can you transcend that without needing that stuff? Like how can you be that creative and not need the steps before per se, or use the steps before to get you to a certain level and then take it in a whole different mode from there. Like I think that's important if you're a musician or an artist or whatever.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a good point, but I'm also saying that listen to music that's successful today. It's god awful. I mean,
well, because it's turned into more of a business than the actual what music's intended to be, which is for enjoyable, like people dancing and people can dance to pop music, but it's like almost like how at one point people were at like a college level music understanding, and now everybody's at like a first grade sing along kind of a thing.
That's cool.
I mean, that's just kind of what it is now, and it's not that I don't think people. I mean, I think there are dumber people, but I think it's more just people whatever's easier for people to get access to. So it's like that's what's available right now because of the business side of it. So that's what people are jumping on. If like look at back then, like Led Zeppelin and all these classic rock bands, and even jam bands like Grateful Dead built an empire through some pretty conservative times there with what they were. So it just depends on what you are and what your product is. But when that's not being pushed, it's got to be completely organic. Look at how Phish became popular. It was just like word of mouth through friends, and then people kept coming to their shows, and they keep playing the same places, and then it grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. That's organic. You can't really. I don't think you can even do that on purpose. I think it's something that just happens. So
yeah, yep, I'd agree with that. Yeah, 100%. I mean, so. But the beauty in going through that kind of like, well, the other thing is then obviously you're watching the people that have had that grassroots, even Zeppelin. Now Zeppelin, like they were not, the critics hated that band.
Yeah, because they're just taking blues songs and ripping them off and shredding them out.
But what happens
is cool, but.
Yeah, but then obviously they definitely had their own sound and were phenomenal. But
same thing with the Rolling Stones. Early on, they were all old blues songs, and then they kind of found their whole own thing in the 70s, But the problem is that I found was like from that very young age. Also, then on top of that, I would idolize my dad playing music, and he at one point.
was like he had a really, I mean, he's had multiple really good bands. I'm not just saying that because
Yeah, I saw
he's my
Kevin's
dad.
video he made for your dad. It's actually pretty cool. I like
It's
it a
cool.
lot.
It's very
Yeah.
cool. Like he's a really cool. He's got a cool thing he does, and in the like, especially in like the early mid '90s, he had a really tight band. He made a really awesome album that he did at United Sound down in Detroit, and I got to go to those sessions as like I don't know how old I would have been, maybe 6 or 7 or whatever, going into a big studio like that. But then you get this image, you see these guys that have made it to that massive point, and they're one in a lifetime. You know, there's only gonna, in the history of the universe, gonna be one Zeppelin, one Phish, and whatever.
Right.
And the reality is,
it's
it's like you're thinking, oh, you'll be that, but no, you're not that at all. You're, you know, like
That's
I'm speaking
like from
about me.
No, it's exactly like what Chris says from Bittersweet. He's like, I'm not
Oh,
the
yeah.
Grateful Dead. You know, I wasn't born in that era. You know, I was a child of the '70s. You know, going to the malls and listening to. So it's like the same concept. Like you can't. You're right. You can't rekindle or rebuild something that's already been built. The best you can do is use that as like a platform to kind of take it in a whole new path. You know, create something completely new.
Even so, like I'm not even just creatively, just like yeah, time and place. Like they were they were doing the right thing that connected with people at the time and the place and all. And it's like and it's a really unrealistic expectation to even have an eighth of that or a tenth or whatever, to pick your number. It's absurd. It's just pure silliness, foolishness, you know, like, so, but the cool thing about like, going through a tough, like realization, like you're going to be like a guitar teacher, not like a guy that rocks for, thousands of people. It's like,
what's wrong with that? So like,
no,
that's
like,
I've
that's
accepted what
though.
I am. Like once you accept who you are and your place in the world, and you're just having fun, man, and then you're just being creative.
It's fun. That's exactly what I was going to say. So that's another really cool Vedantic principle is like, and actually we were just talking about this in our study group today. We get this inferiority or superiority complex, and it's like, no, you're
that's
a spoke
your ego.
in the wheel.
That's just
it's
your
the ego. Yeah. And so, like you said, once you're like, hey, this is who I am. Although
your ego, this is kind of weird. Like if you really think about it, your ego is very necessary to the production level of what you're creating to a certain. I think once you get to a certain level, though, technically, like once you understand music theory or knowledge or how to, compose and stuff like that, it's not necessary to even worry about the ego. But it's almost like you need it on the path there, Maybe not 100% necessary. Maybe there's somebody that's done it without it, but I think it's part of the learning process of that. Like it's like you're shedding it. It's almost like a caterpillar, and once you've shed that, you can really kind of do what you want from there.
Yeah, the ego is an interesting thing, and I know Steiner has a lot of interest. He has a different, like, kind of. I think some of it is just the way that people use certain words and stuff. But I would agree. Like you have to, like at some point you have to, especially as a performer, you have to be like having a certain degree of like, I'm going to kill it. And it's almost like a competitive thing, but I always was trying to like have that internally, like to push myself to a different level, but then try to be humble.
It turns you into
really
control freak.
anyway,
that's the whole thing. There's a thin line between confidence and arrogance.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I really hope I don't come across as arrogant or anything, because it's like, who are you? Like,
no, I don't think you do at all. But I know people that it's very thin. I know
it's thin.
It's big in the jazz scene.
Yeah, well,
I think it could be big.
Yeah,
those guys.
Not that I haven't met nice jazz musicians. Just most times when I talk to people or other musicians, if we're playing I see a jazz band, it's like, oh, that guy's a dick. Like, why would I
could see it being? I could see it being big in any specialized, like bluegrass or, classical jazz, whatever.
You mentioned jazz. I got to share a story from just a couple months ago. I'm for anything that I might be as a guitar player, I'm definitely not a jazz guitar player. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but
you're like progressive. I would say you're progressive.
But having played in the gospel, not even seen, but at a gospel church, and then I've gotten some gigs through that. Then so kind of like secondhand, I got this gig at Baker's Keyboard Lounge, you know, which is a legendary jazz club.
It's like the oldest jazz club in I think the country, or one of them.
It's what they say. That's what they say they are. So I don't, you know. But anyway,
that's what they say, man.
This awesome guy. So what happened was I got asked to do this gig at Aretha Franklin's father's old church, and she was supposed to be there. And there was this big deal. I was all pumped up,
Damn.
and I was like, "This is awesome." And then she didn't even show up to her own thing. So and then on top of that, everybody else was like, "Of course, she never comes to these things." I was like, "Oh, why? Here I am." I thought.
I think she was sick too. There. She might have had cancer. Still does maybe too.
Yeah, I don't think she's doing too hot. But so anyway, that happened, and the music director of that church asked me to play this gig with him, and then I go, sure, and I thought it would be gospel music. Then he sends me these tunes, and I go to look them up, and they're all these jazz songs. It's like Herbie Hancock and all this stuff. I'm like, and then at that point, I wasn't going to say, hey, I can't do this.
Were you playing the bass on that, or?
No, I was playing guitar, so I figured I'll just tell him, I'll tell him I can do it, you know, see how it goes. So then he, you know, I figured, hey, if I have enough time, I can learn the music. So then I go and I learn all this music, and then I go to a rehearsal, and then I'm on time. Then the bass player's like, it's getting to be like 20 minutes. We've been waiting around. Then they go, oh, the bass player's not coming. We'll be fine. We won't even rehearse. What? And then I'm like, all right. So then I learn all these songs and the keys, and I'm stressing out, man. Then I show up to the gig, and then I haven't even met the bass player. The bass player shows up. He's got a double bass. I'm like, what am I doing? And then
Victor Wooten.
And there's no discussion about we're going to start with this or that, and here's the key. Nothing. The keyboard sits down, and he just starts playing.
Yeah, you better know every key of this fucking every song. You know the song in every single key. You better.
And forget about the key. I didn't even know what the song was. And it's a packed house, and I'm sticking out like a sore thumb. You know, I'm like sitting here. I'm like sweating. You know, like these guys are wearing like suits, and I'd like have like jeans or something. And I'm like, and then I had
that's just the worst feeling when something like that happens where you can't control it, you know.
And on the fly, I had to
be like,
this
wasn't a dream, dude.
This actually happened. So then I'm like, I'm freaking out. I'm like listening. I'm like, okay, it's in C minor. Okay, so I like figured out a couple chords, and I'm just trying to add a little here and there. And then he's like, all right, Chris, here he goes with the solo. And I'm like, oh no. And I just, dude, I tried. You know, I tried my best.
It probably was pretty good, man.
Well, so then, you know, I played, I felt awful. I've almost, you know, I don't know if I've ever felt worse, at least not lately.
Oh, that's when you gave up music, was after this show.
No, this is a couple months ago. This is in my good times. And so then so I'm feeling awful. You know, I'm like, well, that'll never happen again. And so then, you know, this is funny. So then maybe a month ago, then
2 weeks later,
then this guy texts me. And awesome, you know, nobody could believe, you know, it sounded that good, and we didn't even rehearse and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, oh man, he liked it. We'll have to play again. But then at the end, he was like, oh, would you buy my CD? And he was like just trying to sell the CD, I think.
Oh, right on.
Oh man, that's a bummer ending, bro.
but then here's the
I thought you were gonna play like some mega church, some shit on TV.
Well, look, so then I'm doubly feeling bad, because like I thought I sucked, and then I thought, oh, he did like it. Then I was like back to, oh, I sucked. Well, then he called me last week and asked me to do a gig, and I couldn't do it. So so it all worked out in the in the long run.
What? So basically, you thought your ego got in the way. That's why you didn't want to play anymore. I mean, I've had a similar experience myself. I mean, I've had my own shit too, the same exact kind of a thing in a way. I had played music for a long time. I, you know, worked at Guitar Center for a while. I'd been in the music shit, you know, playing gigs downtown Chicago, out in the suburbs, everywhere.
You met Billy Corgan.
There's a lot of famous people that used to come through our store. But the thing is like I had all this gear and I was fucking loving it, and it was just like, oh man, this is great. And then something happened. I just you know, I think my band broke up. And then when that happened, it's like, man, that sucks. And it wasn't just about the band. It's just something snapped in my head. I'm like, is this really what I want to be doing? And I kind of like, oh, let me try some other shit. So, but that whole time, I think it was like 3 or 4 years. And part of it was when I was actually staying with you guys. But I mean, we played music around the house and stuff like that and played at the jam space and everything. But the problem for me was just not having that same passion that I had before. And then once I found it again, I'm like, holy fuck, why did I ever stop doing this? This is stupid. Even if I don't do it to the purpose of what I was doing it before, I'm going to do this and have fun because it's like a fucking awesome thing to do and it makes you feel good. And when you hit that harmonic convergence, you know, you get the chills all over your body. There's no feeling. And I don't even think that's an ego thing either, because that's more of a being in sync with other people. It's like a connection. It's like us having this conversation and connecting on like a higher level than just the normal, hey, how are you? You know, it's like a whole experience, you know? So I mean, for me, that was why I kind of came back to it. And then now I've rebuilt up, you know, my whole stockpile of gear, and you know, we just played a show the other night. And but yeah, I mean, I got rid of everything. That was the other thing. I got rid of like thousands and thousands of dollars worth of shit. I got rid of a G&L 3-bolt guitar that was just amazing. Just shit that I super regret. But I mean, I guess everything happens for a reason in that regard. But
I mean, you can get those back if you want.
Yeah, I mean, so what about you? What made you stop? Because you're the only one that hasn't come back to it there, K-Dog.
I don't know. You get involved with other passions.
Right.
But I mean, I was gonna say, I think it's funny that you were saying the ego, because now that I started playing again, the only reason I play is for myself. Back in the day, you know, when you're in a band, you're playing, you're trying to impress people, you're trying to make a living, you're trying to get people to follow. And now I don't like the fact that I don't have to rely on it for money or anything. I can just pick up a guitar, play. If it sucks, it sucks. If it's good, it's good. And
well, I mean,
I just play for myself.
You were good.
I should have never stopped.
Songwriter. Yeah, you're a good songwriter. I think you're really good with putting lyrics to chord progressions. I think that was probably your strength as a musician. But you weren't bad at like soloing and stuff either. You know, that was one thing that actually kind of surprised me when you stopped playing. So I'm like, why does this kid's good? You know, I don't know.
That's what I keep telling him. Yeah. I actually have a different perspective than what you were saying, Hogan, because then what happened is then I'm like I'll never do the kind of music that I was doing before with the original music. Like it's done. I'll never do it again. You know, like it's over. But then like I do play for a living, you know, and now I play weddings, or I play in the Phish band. Yeah. So then that's another cool, like, it's like take the wedding band. At first I was really like, oh, you know, like, here I am, you know, playing in a wedding band. But then,
that's good money, baby.
Well, sure. But the thing is, it's like, it's kind of, you're sitting there and you're making somebody's biggest day really fun, or their night.
Yeah. You know?
And that's,
you're bringing smiles to people's faces. That's awesome.
No, it's a good time. And so then that's a cool way to like, get their ego out of the way, because it's not about you. It's like how, you know, it's their time. And then with the Phish band, the cool thing is that it's not even my music. So like it's a funny thing that the Phish cover band has been working, because people love that music so much, and it's cool because I get to play that, but it has nothing to do with me. Like nobody even knows my name. You know what I mean? It's like they're coming.
That's the fake Trey up there.
Well, no. So like that's the weird thing now. It's like you play that stuff and everybody knows what you were playing. When we were younger, we were in that, you know, Kevin and I were in the Marm. Like we used to play that shit. People were like, oh, it's obscure rock music. Now it's like we played a show Friday night and we played Sample in a Jar. We played Down with Disease. We played a couple other Phish tunes, and like those were the ones that people were like cheering and like up front and dancing around to and stuff. And the rest of the, you know, the classic rock stuff wasn't resonating as much. And I don't know, maybe it was just the passion that I was putting into the Phish stuff because I love it, you know. But it's just weird how that's kind of turned a page too. Like it's almost like that's becoming, because people like don't get other music other than pop music, so it's like whatever's the biggest, you know, counterculture-y type thing, and I guess that would be the jam scene, you know.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a real trip.
So you guys, your Phish cover band, you guys are playing a show, aren't you, coming up?
Yeah, man. This
Oh, it's next
we didn't talk.
weekend, isn't it?
It's a week from today. Uh, we didn't talk about the circumstances of why we're doing the show, did we? Before, like before I start repeating myself.
No.
No, I don't think so.
Well, I'll do a little backstory. So this guy named Eric Eric Brown, I think his last name is. I've never met him, but that's who the benefit is for. So this guy, the Free Press just did an article about him. He's kind of this oddball kind of guy, and he had a head injury when he was a toddler, and then he had some weird speech stuff, and like was I guess never quite the same. It was just always kind of like a little different than everybody. But anyway, he's like this super nice guy, and anyway, he met some people on some kind of Facebook group or something.
I think I heard of this dude. I think I saw this on the Addicted to Phish page on Facebook. Does he have a goat?
Yeah, that's right, the goat. Yeah.
What?
So he has a pet goat or something. So he's just kind of this kind of different dude. But anyway,
Adam Sandler.
But he's like the nicest guy ever. He took these people in like because they didn't have a place to stay. Then robbing him, got hit their dog to attack him. Blade just took his power tool, hit him into the hospital, and like a really bad scene. So anyway, that's why we're doing the benefit is for that guy on Sunday. And I think he's just a big fan of maybe, like the jam type scene in general. So
yeah, you got Dead Again playing.
It's just a big, tribute time. it's a Green Sky, it's a Green Sky tribute band, Grateful Dead, and then us doing Phish.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's actually, that's weird that you said. I did read that article about that guy.
Are you gonna come, Big Bear?
I might come. I'm gonna be in town. I have to see if I'm staying that night or leaving the
dude,
next.
Are you kidding? Yeah, you gotta come, man.
Do a little reporting from it.
Yeah.
I'll pull out some lights.
A little in-game session. But let's pivot here for a second.
Pivot.
Let's talk about vibrations in general, because I think that's a super crazy thing that we don't even talk about that I think affects most things. I mean, think about what vibrations, us speaking, vibrations, music, vibrations, sound, vibrations, vibration. They're using vibration now to levitate things. That's how powerful vibrations can be. So what do you guys think about like the effects of that on us, on our souls, on our consciousness?
Well, what comes to mind? Well, two things come to mind about that. Like there's the was it a Japanese scientist, the guy that did this stuff with the water and he studied water and snowflakes and stuff, and like so like
I think I know what you're talking about. He would look in the thing like I think I know what you're talking about. Go ahead.
Let's see if I can find something on this guy.
Audio, or I don't know if it was a real person or just audio playing of like negative stuff, speaking to the water or what, I forget how they did it, but gosh, I'm going to have to look it up. It might've been ice or something like that, but it took on this kind of like disfigured looking form. And then then it would be like loving kind of sentiments, like then it would be this beautiful, like symmetrical geometric pattern,
I did see something like this on Facebook.
Can you look this? I can't remember exactly.
I mean, I looked up Japanese sign. I couldn't find anything on this guy.
I just typed in Japanese scientist. Nothing came up. I don't know why.
No, I'm looking, bro. I'm not finding much.
But yeah, I think that does have a huge effect.
Bro.
That's why I don't think like I don't shit on music at all. But when you look at like the crazy shit that happens at like metal, gigs and crazy shit like that, these people are like throwing each other into each other and beating each other's asses in the middle, mosh pitting, and I don't know, like is that, and they consider, like we've talked about this too, like the lower the octave, the kind of more I think you use this word as a harmonic.
Hey.
Where it's like the lower the octave, the not evil, but the more ominous it becomes, and the higher the octave, the more serene or beautiful, you know.
Were you? Did I say that?
I'm not saying you said that. I'm saying that's a word you usually describe. The harmonic is like a negative force that's pushing you to do something. I'm saying that, do you think that there's something associated with that? Because like I said, if you listen to like people that do crazy shit, you know, tend to listen to shit. Not that I'm shitting on anything. I think I can't listen to metal music just usually for the grunting. I mean, I can appreciate the guitar work. I can appreciate the guitar work and the double bass drum and all that kind of stuff, but it's just like, I don't know. It leaves like an unsettling feeling in me, you know. I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't think it's leaving that feeling because it's a low pitch. I think it's just because it's screaming into a microphone.
Well, I think what we were talking about with the low thing was, I think maybe at one point I was talking about like the dance music is like dum dum dum. Right. It's all rhythm and it's like a low thing. It's like a kind of a primal. It's like it's just like I don't know. It's primal. It's not like it's very different than going and listening to the DSO perform an amazing piece of music with a bunch of people coming together.
That's like angelic, and if you listen to like somebody grunting or like dubstep or whatever,
are you
like,
saying Dead Mouse is a barbarian, bro?
You know?
Is Dead Mouse a barbarian? Is that what you're saying?
Dead Mouse is a smart guy because he's doing what he loves, I guess. You know what I mean?
And he wears a helmet. Yeah,
the helmet. Yeah.
I mean, I think Daft Punk does what he does to the next fucking level, but.
So yeah, what was the other thing? Oh yeah, and then I feel like I was just coming across like a theory about some of these ancient structures have these massive stones that they were built with, and one of the things they
resonate at a frequency of 111 hertz.
Something about maybe like that they were using some kind of levitation to get these blocks.
Oh yeah, that I've heard too. That shit's crazy. That actually might be a real thing. Like they said earlier, they're doing stuff with levitation with vibration now. There's a scientist where they'll take like a ball bearing and they'll use like a handheld this like vibration machine, and it'll literally make this ball bearing just hover in the air just on the vibrations alone.
That's crazy.
I mean, if you had that on a large level, you could levitate shit. I mean, you could levitate anything if you have enough of that energy, you know? And I actually think that I've heard that, you know, the walls of Jericho getting blown over, you know, I think it's the Crusades. They said that there was a horn that was blown. They said that there could have been some machine used that created such force with the vibration that it would have helped the wall fall or whatever. I mean, that's obviously some crazy shit, but I mean, I wouldn't put it past if there was some sort of ancient technology. Like these fucking people built the pyramids, you know?
You know what else has something about that? Way back in the Bhagavad Gita, he talked about somebody having some crazy horn. What the heck was that part? Oh man, I mean, I've been working on that book for the past year or something, so it's not as fresh in my mind. But there was something, I'm gonna have to look it up with that, and it was like a terrifying sound, like when they were going to the battleground. It was like, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely something to the way vibrations affect people. You know, I always say like, "Oh, good vibes," you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. Yeah,
you know, yeah. I don't know.
Have you ever heard of this thing? It's called like the net of Endra or something. I think it's an Indian philosophy thing. It's that we're all connected through like this web, and that when something shakes the web, it has an effect on every fucking thing in the entire universe. It like shoots out kind of like a ripple on like a lake, like how we're all connected through this like nerve system kind of.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Vedics would call that Brahman. You know, in fact, they say that's all there is. So in our study group, Vedanta study group, was like the concept of therefore, there's no difference between hurting. Now this is getting off music.
No, I mean, whatever.
You know, so if you do something harmful to somebody else, it's harmful to you too. You know, there's no difference.
Mm-hmm.
So. But yeah, I haven't looked into, you know, too much to the topic of different vibrations or anything. But There's
Oh,
definitely
dude, you
something
should.
to it.
Dude, I mean, I know you don't, you said you don't really meditate, but when you do meditate, dude, if you go onto YouTube and pull up these, here, what frequency is it? I meditate to a frequency. This thing fucking, I'm telling you,
The
it does shit.
binaural thing, or
Um, yeah, it's hold on a second, I'll pull it up here. But the other thing is what we were talking about too is all the megalithic structures hum at certain frequencies, and so they found like most of the big ones hum at like 111 hertz.
What do you mean they hum?
Like if you like, there's quartz in them so that they capture this energy and they have like a frequency to them. It's like the weirdest fuck. Like when you, I was watching a documentary. When you're inside the Great Pyramid, it's completely like dark and completely quiet, and you can hear anything that happens as like an echo. So like, but the actual structure itself, when you're in there, it's almost like you have like an altered conscious because it does hum at this frequency and it like draws you into that frequency. At least that's what I've heard from people that have been like inside it, you know.
Yeah. Can anyone take a tour of those things?
I don't know how that works, to be honest with you. I think that I think when you're doing that kind of stuff, you probably have to get special permission. I don't know how the complex works in terms.
Yeah, their
of like,
government doesn't want anyone fucking around in there.
yeah.
Oh,
So
no.
the hertz that okay, so the one I do is like 528 hertz, which is, it says it repairs DNA and brings positive energy. So
Have you on the Egypt thing, on the pyramids? Have you ever seen that video of the guy that it shows him flying on a plane, and he has this little remote control car with a camera built onto it, and he sneaks in and he drives it through the tunnels, and it's like, then he you guys can look this up. So then he's driving it, and then it goes
sounds
blank.
fucking crazy.
No, then the video goes blank, and he has a message on screen. It says, to whom it concerns, you need to pay me. It was like several $1 million, and there's a countdown, or he's like, or I'm going to release what's on this footage, you know. And it had like info.
What if that shit was real?
And then the website like went down at some point, and nobody knows, like, you know. But he actually, oh man, you got to look this thing up. It's
I mean,
it's
supposedly,
crazy.
according to Edgar Casey, the Hall of Records, which there's only a few of them on Earth. I guess one was at like Atlantis, one was at the Library of Alexandria that burned down, and one of them is buried in a chamber under the Sphinx's right paw, supposedly, and they don't let anybody like go down there. So
Yeah.
I mean,
The dude just died.
I know, John Anthony West, our R.I.P. buddy. It's fucking. That was actually one of the most. He's on the Pyramid Code. He's on Magical Egypt. He, obviously was on the Joe Rogan show. I mean, like
Rogan was talking about that match. Is that the 5 DVD set?
Yeah, it's sick. Yeah, I watched a couple
good?
of them on
Oh,
YouTube. Yeah, definitely check it out. I actually the one I like he's on too is the Pyramid Code on Netflix. That one's
I've
free.
seen a
It's
little
like
bit
a
of that,
5-part thing. And it talks about like a new chronology of like how we all look at like 3000 BC, 4000 BC is when they built it, but there could be much we've talked about this much older. So that's definitely something you guys should check out. But
so what his claim to fame was that the pyramids were built way.
Yeah,
I mean, like his claim to fame was just that. Well, no, his claim to fame was like he said some of these civilizations could be as old as 30, 40,000. He's not saying that that's what it was. He's saying that that's when you look at how long it takes for some of the sand to cover some of these things. And then I think there's a place called Nafta Playa. It's in the middle of the Egyptian desert, kind of by the Sudan like border. And they say that was actually before the pyramids, and that could be super fucking old. And that's got like megaliths like in the middle, almost like skinnier Stonehenge looking shit.
Well, he wasn't he also like a real big proponent of the age of the Sphinx because of the rain erosion, dating it back more like at least like 9,000 years.
So that's like Graham Hancock, Randall Carlson. I mean, all the Robert Bivol, all those guys are kind of in that same boat with all that. And I think it's you can't deny that there's not water erosion around the Sphinx. I mean, there's pictures. You can't, it is what it is. But yeah, I think that John Anthony West was just pointing out, like he was, talking about too how you can transcend this life, and that's what the Egyptians were figuring out, is that kind of like what we talk about, like losing your ego and becoming one with the universe, like you're meant to be, and all that. He's saying, John Anthony West was a big proponent of, you can achieve that, you know, if you work at that as your mission for life, you know, and like if you can figure things out. But and he's saying that, you know, a lot of the Egyptian culture talks about how they did figure that out. So I don't know, it's definitely something worth checking out if nobody's checked out any of those documentaries or any of these people that we're talking about, 'cause it's definitely some very interesting stuff, and it does not go along with
hopefully
the
you
main,
transcend, man.
yeah. So maybe he did. He maybe found his
Maybe he
enlightenment.
did.
So
They didn't bury him in the Sphinx, though, did they?
No, that'd be crazy.
Yeah.
What? So what was your first jam show, Maurice?
Mine was Phish '99, December 2nd.
So it was the first jam band you've ever seen.
It was. I think it was the second concert I've ever seen.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Took a
And that
couple
was
puffs off a little doober. You know?
What were we, freshmen or sophomores?
Yeah, we were freshmen. I heard first song they played was "Runaway Jim," and I was singing the chorus, but I thought it was "Rolling, Rolling In." I didn't know what I never heard this.
It was real
before.
green. Yeah.
I thought it was awesome. I was real green. My face was green. I was very, very sky high, if you will. But
there you go.
I mean, the whole scene. You go into the parking lot. It's just a different world. There's people that are lit.
Yeah, it's
Shakedown.
life.
And I remember my aunt was warning us not to eat ganja goo balls. And I was like, what's ganja goo ball? I never heard that term before. And as soon as we got on the lot, I hear ganja goo balls. It's like, how did she know that?
Obviously, those have been replaced by edibles. You can't. I mean,
yeah.
There's just no. I mean, I'm sure people still sell them because there's probably like a nostalgia factor there. But
I mean, they're pretty disgusting in my eyes. It's just let's jam a bunch of shit into a ball.
What was your first jam show, Chris?
Let's see. I actually think my first experience with that scene was the first Bonnaroo.
Okay.
Ouch.
Because what do you mean, ouch? The first Bonnaroo was phenomenal.
It's just so hot, man. It's hard to enjoy shit.
The first 3 or 4 were good, and then it got like kind of, you know, even when Phish played it, it was pretty.
It was horrible.
Over publicized, you know.
Oh, it was horrible at that point. But I just fell in love with it, because before, you know, I didn't like. I only, you know, like dabbled a little bit. Well, I had one of my best friends growing up. His brother loved the Grateful Dead, so I always had that. You know, like I always liked it, but it was more of like sort of like a nostalgia thing. Like it was like I was a kid, and he looked up to him as an old brother kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I never myself jumped into it too much. I just knew that he would have, you know, the Skeletons in the Closet CD or whatever, and have those
greatest hits.
Yeah, so that was all that was what I knew. And then my sister played Phish for me in like middle school, and I think the first thing she played me was like Waste or something. I was like, I still was like into Nirvana, you know, and that kind of thing. And so I was like, no, you know, this is not my thing.
It's a big jump.
Yeah, but then Napster, when that happened, when we were in high school, then I would like look up stuff off of Junta and hear like Esther, you know, like I remember really like being like, what is this?
Yeah.
Or even like Colby, you know, and those kind of things. And obviously, you know, You Enjoy Myself and that kind of stuff. So I was kind of like, oh, this is kind of crazy, especially as a guitar player. You're like, what is happening? And then I went to Bonnaroo and saw, you know, I can't even remember the entire lineup, but
I think Trey played there the first year.
He did. I think he played on the Sunday night, maybe.
Yep.
And so anyway, that was my first thing, and that was like a big jump into like talk about a different world, you know.
Yeah,
that was
0
like,
to 60.
I was like, what is this? And so then I went on a whole different tangent. That's kind of maybe a little before I started hanging out with you, Hogan, back in the day, maybe a couple of years before that. But yeah, that was mine, I would say. I honestly was so out of it. I couldn't tell you what the actual first show was, though.
Sure.
Yeah. One of them was String Cheese Incident. I know that.
Okay. It's a good show.
It was fun. I had fun.
Yeah, Bill
I mean,
Nurse.
yeah. So anyway, then it was like, then when I got back though, it was life changing. I mean, you know, I had a psychedelic experience for the first time at that thing, and so you're never the same after that. You know.
Sure. I think
I also miss like finding bands that have such a, you know, a massive catalog, and you get into it and you're like, damn, this song and then this song. I need to find another band like that.
Well, there's not that you can't do that. I mean, when we were younger, it was a whole different world of that kind of stuff. Now everything's at your fingertips at all times, and you've lost generations now. Unless you are a jam band, there's really only pop rock bands, and those bands only last a couple years, and they're not usually the most musically inclined. No offense, but I mean, it is what it is, you know. So
yeah, but at the same time, you have really great stuff like I love Snarky Puppy, like that's really
all that
cool.
stuff. Yeah. Those guys
know.
are pretty big. I mean, they play big shows. It's not like those guys don't, you know.
Nowadays they are, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying with media and social media and the way things work now. It's hard to get that lost. Like, you know, I heard of this band, the Pigeons, playing ping pong. My bass player, who's younger, brought it to me. I'm like, these guys are actually pretty fucking good. You know, I like that shit. I've never heard of before. So you will get one here and there, but it's usually a little bit harder these days than it was like back in the day, you know.
Yeah, and speaking of jam bands and Phish, I got tickets for Trey in Grand Rapids for my birthday yesterday. So
Yeah.
that's
Nice. That should be
Yeah,
fun.
I want to go to that.
I think the first we saw Trey, that was the first time. I think that was the first and only time I've seen Trey Anastasio band was the one at the Fox Theater when he first released his first solo album. That shit was fucking, talk about rowdy. That the Fox Theater was fucking nuts.
Was it crazy?
Yeah.
I
also got tickets to Pigeons playing ping pong on pogo sticks, seeing Pixies.
That last Trey show at Royal Oak Music Theater that ever was May was awesome.
Yeah, that was a good time.
Like
that was the first time Emma saw Trey, and she just loved them. She said he was having a time of his life.
They sounded great. I thought it was really good. I thought it was so good. But
it was
of course,
a good show.
It's fun to see him, like, because he's a larger. To me, he's. I mean, he might as well be Jimmy Page or Jimmy. I mean, he's on that level with those type of guys, and then to see him in a little room like that, just smiling and having fun, you're like, yes, and because he's the kind of. The thing about that is so special, I think, why I really, really love not only his music and his guitar playing and stuff, but he seems like such a cool, positive guy. Like he, you know, I don't know, he just seems so.
Well, he's been through a lot of shit himself, you know.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah.
I think for me, my first jam experience was, well, I didn't get to see Phish until they came back from their hiatus because
Me too.
Right after Kevin saw them in '99, they took a break for a few years, and then we got lucky. We won the lottery. We won the lottery because one of our buddies in high school, Patricus, got a bunch of tickets, like sick tickets too, like second or third row the one night. And the problem was his dad took all the tickets because he got in trouble.
Don't have a party the week.
We called them. We're like, we called them. We're like, dude, you better give us our fucking tickets. We already paid for these things. So we ended up getting our tickets, which actually was super cool. And then since we were gonna drive with him, we had to pivot. We ended up we got a ride from Ryan Hayes' dad to Chicago, and we stayed with my dad. And that was my first Phish shows in Chicago, even though I was living in Grosse Pointe at the time. But
Rift opener.
2002, yeah, 2002.
Rift opener?
Yeah, 2002 was my first song at the Allstate Arena. And we got a Tweezer second set opener, too. That was actually a really sick show. Cool. And then we took a Greyhound from there to Cincinnati, where we saw him 2 nights in a row at the U.S. Bank Arena.
Sarah was there. Was this 03, did you say? I missed
this is 02.
02.
Like February, I think, 02.
I think she was at those shows, or at least one.
Actually, we saw DeCarlo and a couple
There's
other
a sick
people.
Bathtub Gin from that.
Yeah, we saw a couple people from Grosse Pointe there, too.
I love Bathtub Gin.
I think I saw Cisco or something, too. I don't know. But anyways.
Yeah, we did. We saw him.
Yeah, so we saw him there both nights. So that was my first week. It was like a little road trip. It was actually pretty sick. And I on the Greyhound bus, Kevin and I met this guy. He was telling us it was basically like Requiem for a Dream trapped in a guy's body. He was showing us on his arm where he had shot up and they missed it. He had a big bubble. Bro. He missed and there was a big bubble and they cut it off. And
I hate it.
He was trying to sell drugs and Molly and shit.
He would nod out while talking to us. He'd be in a story, and then he'd just fall asleep halfway through. And me and Maisie
must have nodded out, man.
You talk about someone being green. We were green on the road, man. We didn't know what the fuck.
Me the heebie-jeebies, man.
So like, and then this guy was like trying to sell us like DMT and all sorts of shit, and like we actually saw him at that show too, which was weird. I don't know, but it was just a whole. We had a great time actually. That was when we were 16, I think. When you're 16 and I was 16. Kevin might have been 15. I don't remember, but. When you're able to do that, like our parents were super cool and allowed us, and it was actually like the first time, like I had traveled, taken a plane by myself to see my aunt in Chicago a couple times and stuff like that. But when you travel like that and you're on your own, it's kind of like, I don't know.
That's an adventure, man.
Well, and that's what we were into. That's what got, I think, both Kevin and I both kind of into it. Like aside from the music aspect of it, we read Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test by Tom Wolfe. We read On the Road by Jack Kerouac. We read, all the counterculture stuff. Whatever it was, Great White Shark Hunt. There's just tons and tons of stuff. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Just all that stuff where it just kind of like alters your perception just reading it. And that's what kind of drove. At least that's what drove me to kind of get into that whole music scene. And then once I got into that whole music scene, it's just like a whole different aspect of life where. You're able to not get into the same pattern that you see kind of everybody else fall into, and it's not like I'm doing it consciously, like I want to be different. It's just that it's like an alternative route. Yeah, it's just like an alternative route where you feel like you're more comfortable because you can just be yourself as opposed to being this like, whatever everybody else is doing, Britney Spears and fucking Christina Aguilera or whatever the fuck's going on,
Yeah. Well, it's a really big live in the moment type of society too. These people aren't too much, they're not too concerned about their long-term for future or whatever. You know what I'm saying though? It's a live in the moment thing, so it's good to go from time to time. But
crank out 15 mil and then disappear, that's not a bad run.
Yeah, actually my first Phish shows were Deer Creek. And it was kind of sounds like a similar thing. Like flew to Chicago and then drove down to Indiana. And
yeah, it's pretty close.
Went there and it was fun. Yeah.
What was the best show you like? What like I know, I mean it's all subjective, but like what in your mind sticks out as like the most like musically the most intense thing you've seen?
Phish show or just in period?
Anything like what's blown your mind? Like what have you seen that's like, man, this fucking shit's just like you left there buzzing,
Oh boy, I don't know. Let me think.
Yeah, what was that show you were telling Emma about? You're like, this is the best show I've ever seen. It's some weird band.
Who, me?
No, I mean.
Oh, I was gonna say I didn't say any shit.
What was I talking about?
You said it was one of the best shows you've ever saw. It's like a two-word name.
Drum and tuba.
Drum tuba.
They opened up for Oysterhead when we saw.
Hold on, this is intriguing me now.
Yeah. I don't know. It starts with an S, maybe. I don't know.
What the heck, man? I said it was the best show I've ever seen.
Sun Ra.
Oh man, it's gonna drive me nuts. I'm obviously
so raw.
It was Sun Ra.
It was so good that I forgot.
That Oyster Hut was probably one of the better shows.
Yeah, the best show I've ever seen was Grey Boy All Stars reunion show at the House of Blues here in Chicago when I think it was 2005, 2004. The whole place was fucking shaking, and I've never felt funk like that. Seriously, like the whole place was fucking popping. It wasn't just like hippies; it was like everybody. Like there was like yuppies fucking losing their minds there too. Like the music was so fucking crisp, man. That fucking you think this. I don't know. I've never seen and that was what's weird is like the guitar player from Grey Boy All Stars. I wouldn't have thought it was this dorky like white guy with this fucking little Gretsch guitar, and he was just fucking dude. He was just tearing it up. Carl Denson was just shredding on the fucking sax and the flute, dude. That was the best music, like music I've seen. The best show. Probably the first set of it. That shit fucking gave me goosebumps the whole time. I thought musically.
You know what? The funny thing though is some of my favorite memories of like live music things were back when we were hanging out and friends with the guys in Bump. Like I had a lot of fun.
A lot of that.
Yeah, we went to that Phish show with all those guys. I went with Jorg and Jay. That one at Cobo Hall. That wasn't the best music Phish I've seen, but it was definitely a fucking fun show to go to. You know.
It was played second set, I think.
Foam,
that was the last. Yeah, they played Foam, I think, to open it up, or one of the first songs. But Mountains in the Mist was sick. That shit fucking teared me up there. But
that was 09, right? That was after hiatus.
Yeah, that was the last concert, I think, at Cobo Hall. So that's kind of a cool thing to see. You know, Phish last show there. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Hogan? What was the best one you've ever seen?
The first Phish show I saw was pretty good, but I don't know, man. I've seen Pat Metheny in the orchestra pit. Shit was incredible.
Did you pinch his tiny weenie?
I tried to pinch his nips, but I couldn't get. I wasn't that close. Plus, I had Judy Adams sitting in front of me. I wanted to behave myself. I was on an edible, bro. It was a bad experience. The feeling was a little bit of a terror, but the music was so crisp it pulled me through.
You took an edible and then ate a Danimal. That's what kind of kid this is. But what was something that you saw, Chris, that you were disappointed in? Something not necessarily that, like something like an experience where you thought it was going to be something musically and it wasn't really.
I didn't enjoy Phish at Bonnaroo. I was really excited for that.
That was awful.
And I was, and I hate, like I really, these days, especially these days, I try to really come from a place of gratitude with them and really, just appreciate them and just be happy they're all alive and playing and stuff. But it's kind of like when you get amped up for when you're younger, you think it's going to be this great party and a great time and you hype it up in your mind. And then it's like, well, of course it's not going to live up to this thing you've built it up to. So like I had, we all went down there, and Hogan met up like with Rogers. They drove down to make it in time. And like,
yeah, my grandmother died that week, and I was like, we gotta still go and all this shit. We left after her funeral, straight from the funeral, went to Bonnaroo.
Sure.
I hadn't.
Shit was out of line.
They're wearing suits.
we had the suits on. We changed halfway down the road, bro.
Oh my gosh.
Well, and at that. The other thing is I hadn't been at Bonnaroo in a long time. And, remember, I was at the first one and I had memories of like old school, almost not well, it was kind of grassroots, it was real, like low key. And then we get there and we're greeted with these sort of like Homeland Security
mag-light to your skull.
Guys. Yeah, and I'm not kidding. It was like a thing where every single car is searched like you're a criminal, And then I don't know if Hogan you were hanging out with. It was like me, you, and Higgins or whoever it was. We're sitting in a field after we'd already been checked, getting into the main zone.
Yeah, yep.
And I just had like a backpack and I was taking notes of stuff I liked, or I don't know. And I had some waters, and this guy just came up to me when we were just sitting there. He's like, I need to check your backpack. And like, I didn't have anything to hide, but it just pissed me off. And I'm like, no, you're not checking my backpack. I already got checked. And he was like, if you don't let me check your backpack, I'm going to take your wristband.
Yeah,
and I was like,
violated you.
Dude, that was an insane violation, I thought.
Yeah.
And so like then I had, and it was just that's not a scene I want to be around, for seeing music. So anyway, it wasn't just the music part. Like it was just like, that was a big disappointment.
We went to the second one, Kevin, Rob, and I, and actually I had a great time.
I didn't even like that. I was at the Heat, man.
I was at that.
Yeah, well, the Heat, we drank like 4 cases of water, I think. And, the people,
I was like obsessed.
People were just naked around us. Like it was so hot. People were just like naked. Like, oh, yep, I'm naked. Yeah. I don't give a fuck.
So like, like that kind of thing. And then we go to the show, and it was just, like I don't want to. I don't know. It was all kinds of things. Like even I think even Bruce Springsteen came out, and I'm not even remotely a fan of his.
Oh, I fucking hate Bruce Springsteen.
I know that's
dude.
like sacrilegious.
Something about him, I just cannot stand his music. It is so fucking terrible. I don't know how this guy got away with this career. He stole it.
I know people love him, and I don't, at all. And so he comes out, and I'm like,
baby, we were born to run.
Oh man, don't even get me started. So
bro.
Then that's going on, and this and that, So like, and I remember there was like maybe it was like a chalk dust that just couldn't get going, or I don't know. I was just like, yeah.
Yeah, that was the first set of the first night.
Is that right?
So the Red Wings just lost the Stanley Cup. We pull into Byron. My grandma just died. We hike miles deep into this fucking sweltering hellhole.
Yeah.
We run to the Phish show, and then they surprise us with a bunch of shit. They just urinated all over our ears, man. It was unbelievable.
Well, I don't want to,
but that's what happens though. That's you go to the show. They might play good. They might play bad. We're banking on the fact that the majority of the time they play
even
good.
That's that.
Yeah, it's cool.
They would tell you
that.
That's the whole thing of taking risks and stuff. So I get it. It's just tough when you drive 10 hours or whatever it is, and then
I think for me the most disappointing one was I was really digging Jazz Mandolin Project when they came out, and I ended up was working at Guitar Center at the time, and I ended up taking this chick, and we went to go see him. I'm like, this fucking sucks, dude. I almost wanted to leave. Yeah. No, it wasn't. I don't know. And I love Fishman, and I love all that shit. It wasn't doing it for me. I don't know.
Yeah. But I think some also favorite things are ones where I didn't have any big expectation. Like,
right.
Like I'm a big fan
it's an album. Like I knew I wasn't going to see the exact shit or whatever. I understood that, but like just the music wasn't meshing well. It just wasn't the vibe there. Wasn't, it's just like a whole ambiance thing too,
No, I know what you're saying. I was going to say, I saw Alan Stone, who's like he's like a soul singer kind of guy. Like he does really cool, just soul music, but I didn't really know too much about him. And I went to see him at the Magic Bag of all places. And it was great, man. He lit it up, and it was like, I didn't know what to expect. I had no real expectation other than it's Tuesday. Well, let's go.
That's what happened to me. I got tickets to Jack White. Me and Chuck almost sold them on the street.
Oh, that's maybe what
I was like. Fuck it, let's go see this guy.
Dude, I heard
I'm
that
not
was
a big White
great
Stripes fan. I'm not a big White Stripes. It was unbelievable. It might have been one of the best shows I've ever seen. But it's the same thing as what he was saying. I had no expectation whatsoever.
This is I know what you're talking about, Noah Hogan, about what one of my favorite shows was. I think Sufjan Stevens.
That's it. Yep, that's it.
Who's that?
Oh,
this guy's getting very excited. He's getting flush over there.
I mean, this was an excellent concert. I mean, it was so good. But no, let me tell you something. Never before have I gone to see heard him a little bit here and there. Wasn't a big fan or anything, but I had a guitar student who had tickets for this concert, and then he had tickets for the Stanley Cup playoffs, and it was like an elimination game for the Wings. And so he was like, hey, can I, and I would teach him guitar. So he was like, can I trade you some guitar lessons for these tickets? I've got these Red Wings tickets and I can't go. I was like, sure. Yeah, I'll go check it out. So me and Sarah went, and never before have I gone to a concert where I didn't really know the music, but then I went and I immediately went and listened to the album, and it's one of my favorite albums. I've been trying to get Hogan to listen to it for like years.
I just listened to a song. It was awesome.
What kind of music is it?
Well, he really changes his sound, but this Carrion Lowell, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's really acoustic kind of
chill rock.
Yeah, I don't really think there's any drums in it or anything. It's just like really, but it's really beautiful. But I remembered like all the melodies, and I'm like, oh, here's the part where he's singing. Like I don't normally remember something I haven't heard before. So then the Red Wings lost the elimination game. So then I saw the kid, or not the kid, the guy I was teaching guitar to. And I felt really bad because I was like, "Oh, this was like the best concert ever," and he was like, "Oh, the Wings lost," you know, and like they felt really awful.
Why do the Wings keep fucking up concerts for everybody?
Dude, the Wings just keep fucking up, bro. They were up 5 to fucking, or they were up, I think 5 or 6 to 2. They lost 7 to 6, dude, in the third period.
Just enough to
kind
lose.
Of horse, yeah.
Because they blow.
NHL center ice was a big mistake buying that this year. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the thing about music to me is that it kind of like the way you look at your life, it's almost like it's your soundtrack, you know, like the way you live and the way what you're doing at that time is indicative of what you're listening to or like what you're doing, you know. For me, I actually recently have stopped listening to music, not because I don't love it. I do love it. I've listened to music my whole life, but when I play music now and I haven't listened to anything, it like opens my mind up to shit. It's so weird. Like when I play the guitar and I don't play it, practice it like that day or the couple days before, whatever, and then I have band practice, I can do shit that I wouldn't even have thought of doing or something, you know, and it just opens up a whole different dimension of playing and thinking, and is where I would have heard a phrase before and try to subconsciously mimic it. Now I'm just coming up with shit on my own that I wouldn't have known where to draw it from before, you know, almost like pulling notes out of the air or something like that, you know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't listen to music really.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I see. I'm constantly listening to music. Maybe that's why I suck.
I can't just sit down and just listen to music.
That's all I do all day is listen to music.
Yeah, but I think that I know it's probably a little different for me in the sense like I'm always having to transcribe music. I'm doing the lesson video, so I'm always having to learn music. I'm having to learn music for the church thing. I'm having to learn music for the cover bands. Like it's always like a laborious thing, and I love it. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't leave too much left over. Like if I have any time and I'm going to listen to anything, it's a podcast. It's like a discussion. Like those are the kinds of things I listen to. I don't listen to music.
Well, it's because you're so, like you said, you're so involved and invested in it that you need a little bit of like where somebody would be enjoying it. You're like need a break from it, you know.
From it, and then I go on for my day, and then I'm teaching guitar and piano, and I have a couple ukuleles. I'm always having to do not having to do because it's awesome that I get to play guitar and stuff. But then it's.
Did you start those ukulele lessons? You're going to hang out over at George Harrison's fucking California retreat.
There's a surge of these ukulele students going on right now, so it's kind of cool.
T-Bone when I was still at the end of my guitar selling days, they became huge. We had a whole portion of the acoustic room that was all ukuleles.
I think I'm gonna get a nice one.
Do they have some high-end ones?
Yeah, get all Koa. Yeah, get all Koa. Yeah, that shit sounds sweet as fuck.
The miniature Trey guitar.
Oddly enough, I think Trey's Koa one though. I think Trey's Koa Languedoc. It sounds good. It's a little squeaky though. I like the maple, the best.
Hey, Maisie, have you ever seen this thing? I'll show you this thing.
Yeah, I've seen a clip of your band. Let me get a close up of that thing. Because when Kevin said it, I thought you got like a Fred, which is that like
I gotta put my piece in.
Fred, what a shitty name.
Well, no, they're building like lower end ones right now.
Yeah, you can tell with a name like Fred.
Oh. Fred. Oh, it's different than the Fred, but yeah.
Oh yeah, that thing's sick.
It's got walnut on the back. Yeah.
Oh hell yeah.
Chuck did something to it, didn't he? Stained it.
Yeah, Chuck lacquered it. Yep.
So what is that then? Did you build that? Did you get a kit? What did you do?
It was a kit, yeah, from a guy named Robert Olson.
Oh, I know, yeah.
And
I know that. I've looked into that.
And it's been like really it's pretty temperamental, man, I'll tell you that. But I've got it dialed in pretty good now. So
yeah. No, it sounds good. And when I've heard your guys' stuff, you've got a really good tone. What kind of amp do you run with that?
Right now I do a Mesa F30 with a twin. Okay,
yeah, I like that.
One thing I found out.
Who wouldn't? That's some quality shit.
But what like the trick I've been figuring out, because like you know how like you look at those pictures of Trey's rig and stuff, like I'm like, how does he get that really good tone without that super high end? Like there's not a lot of super high end on it. And then I looked at
the
a
Ross
picture.
compressor.
No, well, no. I mean, I use Demeter compressor. I don't have the Ross one, but no, it's the he rolls off like almost all of his. I think it's where does he roll it off at? It's somewhere like 6K or something, right?
Yeah. Like a limiter, you mean?
No, like EQ. Bam. Off.
Oh.
Yeah. I might be messing up exactly where it is on here. I've got the, so then I got an EQ pedal, and it's you know that sound like on Rift?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's like it's awesome. It's like it's almost, I don't know how to explain
where
it.
the tone starts to fall off, but it like does it in like a smooth way. Is that what you're talking about?
And yeah, when it's like rolled off.
Yeah, but like when
you
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You know, like that ripping tone from like the song Rift or like Maze.
Yeah.
I love that tone.
I don't have a pedal like that, but when I mix our band and stuff, when I use Logic, I kind of use a technique on some things depending on what it is. But yeah, that's some fucking sick shit.
Yeah.
What? So
this?
Oh, that's good tone. I mean, come on. When he rips the solo, when he goes, it goes into the thing. I mean, that is. Can you put it forward to that?
This?
Oh, it's the curtain. Yeah, lick.
That is some. This is when his tone was probably the best.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm going. That's what I like.
Well, then he got into the whammy phase too hard. The whammy pedal's cool, but if you start to overuse it, it really fucks with your shit.
I'm better with it nowadays, as far as
It's a good thing for if you're good minimalistically with it. You know, like I don't know. Some
jams,
it's
very.
If you're going into like a world,
very, very seldom.
If you're going into,
I remember a few.
Go ahead.
Hogan used to get real pissed about that thing a few years back.
Oh, I hated that shit. Yeah, I used it way too much. It sucks.
Again, I think if you use it, like if you're in the middle of a weird jam or something, I think it's perfect. You know, but you gotta use it the right way.
One fucking note. This guy played full solos with the whole pedal. Dude.
Well, that's what Trey was
like a
doing.
whammy pedal.
So I mean, we're actually. I mean, are you guys going to any Phish shows? Because I mean, they're not coming to the Midwest at all this summer, according to what's been released so far.
I want to go to the Gorge,
dicks, but no dice. But apparently, okay, this guy messaged me on my the channel. It's I do the Phish songs, and so this guy reached out, and he was like,
everybody that doesn't know, Chris does Phish, like some of the harder Phish songs with all the through the whole song you do, where you show all the licks and everything. And that's what's your channel called?
Emmy Guitar Lessons.
Okay, Emmy Guitar Lessons. Check it out.
So this guy messaged me or commented or whatever, and he was like, "Yeah, the Watkins Festival is going to be a go." He says he knows somebody there.
Yeah,
and he's
I'm pretty sure that's going to happen too.
I wouldn't be surprised if they
September.
add a couple more dates too, when they do that as well. Like if they,
you think September?
I think that's when the festival's going to go down.
In September?
I think so. I'm not sure. But
I'm keeping my fingers crossed for a Midwest November, October, maybe.
Why, what are you thinking?
Winter.
Well, I thought there's a gap between like maybe it's the Gorge and Dick's or something, like kind of later August or something like that.
Yeah, well, the Gorge is in July, and then
it's whatever.
Camden's early August.
Well, then it's that and Dick's. There's like a couple week gap or something.
Maybe Dick's is in September because that's the one that Beardsley and Fick are going.
I think they usually do like what is it? Is it Labor Day that weekend, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well,
that show that we saw at Wrigley a couple years ago, that was a good show.
That was fun. Yeah. Didn't they open with Sample that time?
Did they?
Yeah, I think they did.
At the show I was at, I thought they did.
Yeah. Well, we only went the one night with you. We should have gone the other night, but we didn't go.
Yeah, here we go. Dick's is Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, yeah.
So that festival will probably be in like later September.
Oh, people are saying it's going to be in between. So Dick's will still be the last thing. It'll be in August, like in the middle of August.
I miss indoor shit. What if they do one at fucking Little Caesars? That would be fuck. Because I heard the acoustics in there are actually really good. That would be fucking sick if they did one at the Little Caesars Arena.
I thought it sounds okay. I mean, I've seen a couple of gigs there now. Or
what'd you see
gigs.
there?
You saw Kid Rock 15 nights in a row.
Yeah. I saw Paul McCartney and I saw Dead Company.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah. I was at.
I tell you what, Paul McCartney killed it, man. That guy.
My dad saw him this summer out here in Chicago, and he said they played like 40, 45 songs and just fucking crushed it.
No, he just rips through it. He doesn't even the only set break is he gives the rest of the band a break, and he plays by himself for like, you know, a handful of tunes.
He's earning
this guy's running around. Yeah.
He looked like he was gonna die a couple years ago. He's really kind of came back on. Maybe got some stem cell treatment or something. He
might have young boy blood pumping through them veins.
Young boy blood.
That's the new craze out in fucking Silicon Valley, man.
That's Kevin's new acoustic band, Young Boy Blood.
That's a good band name. Young Boy Blood.
Oh.
But what so you do you like when you do like these less like, do you like doing your videos where you're going through the song, or are you just doing it to kind of get that? Okay.
I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it. I
know, but I mean, sometimes people do stuff to disseminate. Like, look, there's not a lot of people that can kind of get through a lot of those songs. So people that are trying to play Phish songs, I go online all the time and look at, like, I try and do the exact solo that's on the CD, and then if you jam off of it, whatever. But you look online, and there's a lot of bands that cover it that just do their own thing that doesn't really sound too much like it, you know. Yeah,
no, it's like doing a big, like 1,000 thing. You feel it's a good. You get done, like every time. It's a cathartic thing. It's a real journey every time. There's a beginning where you don't know anything. Like when I first went down to learn Reba and sat down to learn that, like it was very like, it's like, what's going on here? You know? But then you find the pattern, and then it's so. But yeah,
isn't a lot of the harder stuff too, like the tension that he's building before he releases, like a lot of the stuff on the songs, like whether it's Coyote, Divided Sky, Reba, when they start to do that crazy build-up shit, it's like that intense, you know, tension, and then he releases into the fucking primo shit. But like that's usually the harder part of the songs to play, is what I think, at least.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. The next one I'm going to try to get it done this week, is Lizards. And that's really fun to play.
I know the solo to that, do 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 do. That's like the only part of that song I know.
That's my favorite. That's the outro, bro. That's the outro.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of that.
Call it by its name.
That's one of my favorite. It's up there, like.
And the second piano part, when they play it live, when Paige fucking goes off, that's always my favorite part. The second part when he goes into that shit.
Dude, that softer, that melody you're talking about with the outro thing is like that, and like Divided Sky, that soft part in Divided Sky.
Yeah.
Before the pause, like those are some of my favorite Phish moments. You know.
Have you ever heard the Glen Falls? I think it's 94 Divided Sky, maybe 98, 94. 98.
I think I have.
That's like one of the best ones. He's just fucking ripping, and he's not only is he ripping the normal shit, but he's playing these incredible fills in between the space that he normally just leaves his space. It's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
It's a nice chord progression to improvise over.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
Have you done You Enjoy Myself yet?
Yeah, I did that one. I did that one twice because I realized
the hardest one for you. Like, what was the hardest one for you to do?
To play.
Yeah.
Or to, like.
Well, to whatever, to play or teach, whatever.
Well, it depends on how you look at it, because one of the first ones I tried to do was Reba, and I really didn't. The more you do it, then you really get inside the head of how he does stuff. Like now I kind of know what patterns to start looking for. So it's a lot easier. I trim down on some of the time.
Well, I've learned he's a really diatonic player. Like he doesn't really play too much within certain patterns or like, you know, scales or anything like that. He's really playing to the changes of the music when he's soloing, usually.
Yeah.
Almost like a jazz player, right? Like, isn't that what you would kind of consider that, like diatonic? Like when you play, like for instance, Sample in a Jar, you're not just within one key. You're kind of alternating between when you're playing that solo to keep switching over the chords.
I'm actually transcribing that one right now, note for note, because we're gonna play it Sunday and I wanted to learn the solo and kind of do it right.
Yeah,
you know,
I just played it the other night, dude. This shit was fucking. I think I did one little flub at the end, but other than that, it was pretty fucking crisp.
But you're right in the sense that he's playing. It's almost like he's playing a mini melody per chord in that, which is really cool. But then other times it'll be like, it depends on the thing, you know. Like the Reba Jam is just kind of what it is. What it is, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's a certain thing, and then
2-chord modal vamp.
it's awesome. It's so good,
and it will knock your fucking socks off.
All right, well, let's wrap it up on that note. Why don't you actually? What's your band's Fluffhead? It's PHLUFF Head on Facebook, and you guys have a website.
It's just like.
Why don't you repeat that again? That was a cutting out there.
Whoa, man! Every time this guy tries to promote something, the fucking thing shuts down.
Yeah,
you want to promote something? We're gonna turn it now. What is your website? I'm sorry.
Excuse me.
I'm cutting out here. Yeah. Anyway, it's fluffhead.com.
All right, PHLUFF head.com. And
right.
Also check out my band, The Magical Packsniffian, on YouTube. And we do have a Facebook page as well. And also check out Maurice's photography, which will be highlighted and displayed throughout this page over time.
Hey.
All right, folks. We got another good one in the books. Thanks, Chris. That was enlightening. And we'll see you guys next time.
All right, boys.